Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Coffee, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello everyone.
Hey, good afternoon.
I come here to chew bubble gum and destroy the flat earth. But I got a lifetime supply of bubble gum, so I may not get around to it.
So I'm here to kick ass and chew gum. I don't know all that gum. From Duke Nukem, isn't it?
No, that's They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper.
As if originally They Live, and just the soundbite is what I remember from Duke Nukem. Fair enough. You gotta love They Live, right?
Yeah, that's really relevant to this subject.
Of course.
We haven't covered They Live for a while. Anyway.
One of the best fight teams.
I'm going to, for the title namesake of the show, explain why Max Egan's in the title. So I've just, in the pre-show, with a bit of help from the panel, fired off an email to Max Egan. So, to my understanding from what I was told yesterday, Max Egan, in late 23, has appreciated that Earth is flat. Now, as soon as I heard that, I appreciate what Max Egan is. He's a critical thinker, and he's got a good way of thinking outside the box. He's also very good linguistically. He's a good communicator. He's also very wise. That's another way of saying he's getting on a bit. But he is a good guy, and I would hate to see that guy, regardless of the fact that he has opposed us, flat Earth, in some instances quite strenuously. I would hate to see him now, if he's just branched his way into this subject publicly, fall into a rabbit hole of ice walls and domes and azimuthal equidistant projections with the sun and moon floating over the top of them, NASA, how the globe doesn't work, ether, upward rising Earth. In other words, the feast of nonsense. I would be remiss if I didn't at least contact him and go, "Hey Max, it'd be nice to give you some really good arguments. Have you got a few minutes to do that with us?" So that's basically what I've done. I've sent him an email and said exactly that. It'd be nice, it'd be an honour to give Max some really good arguments, so that when he faces people in this day and age with questions about it, he can give off the best possible answers, rather than potentially speculating about the list that I just gave. So there you go. That's the reason Max Egan's in the title of today's show. There's other good news I'll get to in a minute. Adam, hello.
Hey, Adam. Hi, guys. Sure, I've interviewed Max Egan back in the day. Sure, we had him on. Because he took a compass with him on a flight and tracked it. Yeah, we did. We interviewed him more.
From Sydney to Santiago.
Yeah, years and years ago. Interesting, because that wasn't his main focus. He's much more into lots of other stuff, isn't he? I'm going to dig that out.
Well, I personally don't have any faith in the guy whatsoever. He got rid of me and my comments when I was challenging him on some stuff, some nonsense he was saying some years ago to deal with this topic. I don't have any faith in him. He's after saying he's turned into a flat earther several times and then went back, and like just no consistency. He just comes up. What I heard of him, could be wrong, unless I'm proven wrong, comes up with a lot of conspiracy nonsense, and I can guarantee you he's more than likely going to start talking about ice walls and all the rest of it. If he is a flat earther, I'd be very, very surprised that he won't just do that, regardless of what to say to him. Zero faith.
Well,
thank you.
I can't say that he won't, but if you know why it's flat, right, you're less likely to put those speculations forward without the disclaimers that are appropriate to them. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. If you listen to some of the Q&A that I did on the politics server, what you'll hear is me making a roundabout answer to their question, peppered with flat earth proof, or use of their question about a globe to prove earth is flat. So it's often offered up with disclaimers. For example, I don't have to explain what the sun is. Meanwhile, the sun is used to measure angles off a flat plane to navigate earth with flat. So I'm not answering how the day and night cycle works, but I am using part of the example that I've been asked about, with I've therefore justified not answering why I'm not making a claim about it. There's a heliocentric claim that you've obviously got some concerns about, but when I use it, the sun, it does X to prove a flat earth. So it's offered up with a disclaimer, yeah? And it might even come with a debunking of how the heliocentric sun and moon system doesn't work, after disclaiming that there's no justifiable reason why I should have to explain what it does do when your claim fails for these reasons. So it's offered up with disclaimer. Right, John, is that what you're driving at, right?
Yes. Yeah, and it, you know, like I'll just give Arwen as an example. He, when he talks about those things, will disclaim that this is what he believes. He can't prove it. You know, he'll put a disclaimer and then talk about it, which is okay, because you're just, you know, you can't back any of it up. Just as long as you can fit that in there and then stick to your guns through it, you know, and give justification for what you believe.
Yeah, I'm not interested in people's opinions on what things are.
Well, I know you're not, Neil, but some people are.
Yeah, they are. The ones with all the big channels. Because people like fantasies.
There are some good news. A couple of bits of good news, actually. So first thing, good news. I'm getting a new computer. It's arrived today at the shop. So if you check my community tab on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, you'll see the pictures I got sent by Craig from his shop of the computer. Sat in boxes. Obviously, it's not been turned into a computer yet, but it is the new computer. So that is relevant because yesterday I did a discussion with John LeBon, and he was asking about, you know, how do you sustain yourself? And I had to explain that it's very much not from the generosity of YouTube and their ad revenue, and absolutely as a result of the support I get from Patreons and members and so on and so forth, specifically when it comes to things like hardware failures. And this is one of those instances. So this has been paid for by one of my Patreons. I keep meaning to ask him, should I mention you by name? But I haven't got around to it. I've thanked him. But he, like I've said a couple of times in the last couple of shows, he asked, what do I need to do to get your problems resolved? I asked Craig, what do I do to get this reliable? What parts should I order to replace the crap that's in there now? He gave me the parts. I sharp intake of breath when I saw the amount, sent it on to him and went, holy crap, this is a huge chunk of money. I may end up running a GoFundMe if your generosity doesn't extend to cover this. And I'd totally understand if it didn't. And he just sent me the full amount. So I just called Craig and went, I didn't send him a Skype, but I was like, order those parts. He sent me the money. And then today they came. So as the computer's cobbling along, albeit in a very crappy state, I would prefer to actually round out, like say goodbye to the crap computer tomorrow, because it is still working, right? Craig has also dedicated a chunk of his time, lots of chunks of his time to do such things. So he came over the beginning of this week or end of last, I forget, so many times he's been over now, to make this one cobble along, and it give me the full, yeah, it won't be that great, and no, it won't run fast, but it's working, kind of that spiel. You're like 16-month-old, $6,000 computer being justified by a tech guy as well. At least it's working. but to that end, it is actually working. So we can actually have a live show tomorrow, and then hopefully, although Saturday's his busiest day, I can get it, you know, changed over for the new computer over the weekend. You know, put it in this case. So that's my plan for this weekend, and yeah, it'll be bye-bye to Beast 2.0 / VBPC. It's had 3 names so far with all the changes being done, but I'll have to come up with a new name because, in essence, it is effectively a completely new computer once you change the motherboard and CPU. To me, that is the point that it is a new computer now, especially as everything else already been changed, like Trigger's broom. Anyway.
You can't name her until you see how she operates. Then you can name her. But that's interesting because it's like behind the scenes guys like your friend Craig there that you share curry with that keep the show running, man. Very important people. That's good.
Yeah, well, this entire week's show is only down to Craig. So at the end of last week, the computer wouldn't even come on. Just would not boot past Windows. It would immediately crash and blue screen. And he came out and made that stop happening. And now, yeah, it's not got it to the wow. It's a really good PC now, but it works. And as a result, this week's shows have run on a slightly dicey PC, but they've run, haven't they? So again, entirely down to zero money changed hands. Yeah, he even out of his own pocket bought an extra set of RAM, which I haven't paid him for. So the first set, which was on the shelf, has now been stuck on eBay and sold. The second set he ordered, and it was paid for by the guy who originally bought the PC. Big shout out to Paul. He bought that second set, and then I thought that was failing, so I bought, or Craig more accurately ordered, a third set, which I have not paid for. So he's already out of pocket for another set of RAM. Now that means that when it comes to building it, there's a couple of options for RAM, but ultimately he's out of pocket and been out to the house twice in the last week or 10 days so that we could have this week's shows. And literally, I haven't given him a dime. Yeah, in fact, I owe him money. So yeah, it's a perfect example. Craig's a perfect example, as is Paul. You know, the people that are behind the scenes, not throwing money at me, but, you know, giving me money to make sure that the show keeps running. And I am eternally grateful to them all, because it would not be running otherwise. We wouldn't have a show. So yeah, shout out to all of you. You're all fantastic. You're all ace. Anyway, the other bit of good news is I suspected I'd had a text from Eddie Bravo saying, "Oh, great short videos you've been putting out recently." I think he said words to the effect of, "They'll definitely grow your channel more, and I'll have to have you on my podcast sometime." But because of getting a new phone, again, given to me by Paul, one of the contributors to the show, but it meant I couldn't and haven't gone to the effort of changing all the phone numbers out from my old phone. So I didn't know who it was. So I'm like, "Who's this?" And it's the third time I've done that. So he keeps messaging me and I've not saved his number, or for whatever reason got a new phone. And I didn't know who he is when he's texted me. So I think the last time he had a question about an overcome to an argument from a Glober. But I was like, "Who are you?" And this time the same. "Who are you? What do you want?" I hope he doesn't find offence in that constant forgetting who he is. But no, it was. He texted me back saying, "It's Eddie Bravo." I'm like, "Oh, brilliant. Well, I suspected it was you, and everybody around me is very excited that I might end up on your podcast, so happy days."
Well, he listens to the show, so he's up to date of what's going on. So he understands.
Oh, yeah, I mean, no doubt. And he's well liked. Everybody who I mention Eddie Bravo to likes him.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I have a couple of friends that trained with him years ago, and they really enjoyed his company. I just trained with him for a weekend in Manchester years back, and they said he was such a good guy, lots of fun, good sense of humour, you know, decent dude.
See, that's high praise.
You
Brian
could
doesn't
tell
like
too.
anybody.
Sorry. I was just saying, you could tell by the way he is that he's probably a good guy to be around. Straight up dude.
That's my main concern, because I don't know much about Eddie Bravo. Yes, he's given me a really, really complimentary shout out, which got discussed heavily yesterday on my discussion with John LeBon, my Bonversation. And yeah, because it was such high praise. But you think, man, I don't know enough about this guy. The only bits I know are the bits that are filtered into our arena, because he's obviously got some crossover into our arena. But then when somebody who's from a completely different field that's so alien to me, again, I'll discuss this with John LeBon last night, I'm like, Because John was like, why don't you just get in a ring with Simon Dan and just like properly punch it out? And then he gave an example of someone who had done that and monetized it and been very successful in doing so. I'm like, no, that's not what I do. That has no interest to me. You know, I'm going to enter into a battle of intellect with these sorts of people, and it wouldn't be Simon Dan. And we kind of got into the wrangle-dangle of how, you know, who would be a better opponent. And what came to my mind was someone like Red Rhetoric. I'm like, I'm crap at maths, and Red Rhetoric is exceptional at maths. Therefore, there's a good chance that he could level the playing field if he could get the subject mathematical enough, right? That would be a good sort of, you can envisage that being an evenly fought battle, if you will. Whereas me versus Simon Dan is absolutely pathetic. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. My point being that when I consider things like a podcast with Eddie Bravo, I think I only have what I do in Flat Earth in common with him, because I don't know anything about fighting, I don't know anything about MMA. You know, I've got a vague idea about it, which I discussed after the discussion with John LeBon. I went into the server and just chatted for a bit, for an hour maybe, with the people that were in there, and said exactly that. You know, talked about what I'd done when I was in a private school. I'd learnt fencing and judo, and ended up getting kicked in the face by a girl, things like that. You know, but that's about the extent of my knowledge to interact with someone like him on a level that, you know, we have a common interest in, and that's it. It's just Flat Earth. So you go, hopefully the conversation doesn't very quickly run dry because we've got so little else in common. But that's the only thing that worries me. Whereas for someone like Brian, go on.
Ask him to teach you some moves. He'll gladly do it. I think the first thing they like to do, because my cousin is a teacher, and he said to me, which made me back up, he said, you gotta know what it feels like to get choked out. So I gotta choke you out first. I said, all right, I'm done. No, thank you. Neil's not getting choked out by nobody.
You're not hearing me. Let me put it into different context. Let's say I said, I'm not interested in cars at all. I've got no interest in cars. I don't drive. I like riding a bicycle. I'm a green activist. I hate them, in fact. And a car enthusiast is talking about Flat Earth. And I go, I'm a bit apprehensive because I actually don't. Now, I don't not like fighting. You know, I've watched a bit of MMA, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, that's the comparative example. You're saying back to me, well, just start off by talking about carburetors. No, Neil, you're kind of missing my point.
No, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
You said ask him to show you some moves. Well, no, I have no desire to acquire self-defense sessions or wrangle him into teaching one of my daughters a bit of self-defense. That really isn't my angle. You know, and I'm sure if I was like, how can I wrangle some useful information that you have definitely got in your specialist field? Oh, could you teach my eldest how to do a couple of throws? He'd be like, what the fuck? What? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he'd show you with his students, though. He wouldn't show you with yourself. Just saying, you're talking and it may come up and you may find it interest. And then you find yourself rolling on the floor with Eddie Bravo.
I think I'm actually going to be in his company, but
keep it on topic. You're there to talk about that topic. Like what he does within the jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that's a job he's done for years and years and years. He's one of the most successful at it. I think it's like there's no need to go into that topic. It doesn't.
Oh my God! Maybe I don't explain myself right. I have a problem.
I'm not pointing. I'm not talking to Nathan, not you.
Neil, chill out. Right. Well, while they're arguing it, Shatter's Bassoon, thank you very much for the super chat. Eddie is a jiu-jitsu savant. He beat the best ever. Let's just read that again. Eddie is a jiu-jitsu savant. He beat the best ever. Thank you for the super chat.
That's not correct. He bet Hoyler Gracie twice, I think it was, because Eddie Bravo worked with a very outside the box Brazilian jiu-jitsu style. He did beat Hoyler Gracie twice. Hoyler Gracie is definitely one of the best. He's not the best of the whole Gracie family, but he is one of the best. But there's other people out there, and Eddie Bravo will tell you this himself. Ask him if you wanted to ask. Like, there's plenty of people out there who are really good, who are in the Hall of Fame within that sport, and you know what I mean. So he wouldn't be saying himself that he bet everyone and bet the best, because it's one of the best of all. Actual best is Marcelo Garcia. And when Hyler Gracie's brother would have been Hickson Gracie, he would have been one of the actual best. So there's a load of people out there. There's of the older guard. There is Saulo Ribeiro.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Neil.
Sorry
to interrupt you, Brian.
I like standards. I like to be correct.
Okay.
So that's not actually the best.
Imagine
it's not actually 100% correct.
Imagine you're Eddie Bravo, and for some unfortunate reason, you and I, you being Eddie Bravo, me being me, in this conversation where you've just rattled off a list of people, and I haven't got the vaguest idea what you're talking about. John LeBon did it yesterday. He mentioned the same person that Eddie Bravo beat, and they're there's a couple of them, right, in the same family. Is that correct?
You don't know about the Gracies?
I'm talking to Brian.
Yeah, there's a whole family. They were the originators of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
Them and the Machados, they were taught.
I don't need the intricate details. I just need
if they don't want the details, why are you asking me then?
Because I'm saying I don't know. My point, if I could get it through Neil's constant interruption, is that I haven't got a clue about any of this stuff. So as soon as we're into this conversation, you're like, well, I'm a stickler for the details, of which the person you're talking to, me in this instance, doesn't have a vague clue about. That's my point. I would hate to enter into this exact style of conversation about a subject I don't have the slightest clue about a list of names I've never heard before. And while you're stickler for detail, I'm sitting here, what's going to be my response in this fantastic epic discussion about something I haven't got a clue about? Yes, how interesting.
Well, I didn't. Did I suggest that you should have that conversation?
No, I'm making a point to my audience.
Why are you jumping on me about it?
I'm not. I'm using you as an example. Chill out. Just making you as an example to say that were I in a position where I'm with an F1 racing driver and he's happening to be a flat earther and wants me on his podcast and it's an F1 driver, so it's not personal to you, and he starts talking about carburetors when I don't know anything about carburetors. I do, but it's just the example I'm giving. I'd be, oh no, what we're going to do in this conversation when he starts listing off all these famous race car drivers and their skill in terms of their ability to beat him as a racing driver, and I don't know what he's talking about. So me as the guest who's there to be presumably pushed into talking a bit about something with the person you're chatting with, in this case an F1 driver, and I go, that's very interesting, because I clearly don't know what the bloody hell he's babbling about. Well, that could be the situation with somebody who's an exceptionally good fighter and runs a load of dojos and is going to be, presumably, at some point talking about what he specialises in. And for me, I don't know anything about that subject. So it could be very awkward. That's the only point I'm making.
No, he won't. He's going to be talking about flat Earth. He enjoys you as a flat Earth debate king. You destroyed a book. Don't you remember? I effing love Nathan Oakley. That's all he cares about.
I'm sure he's got other thing he loves too, but I mean, I will take it as he only loves me, and that's the only thing he thinks about all day long. I mean, I can think of it in that way, Neil, but thank you. The sentiment's there.
He'll only want to talk to you about one thing, Nathan, and that's the subject at hand. There's no reason to want to talk to you about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's like, that's what he does all the time. It's like this is his topic of interest. Now, this is a bigger deal to him, I would say, than that. Because that is just a sport. It's what he made his bones at. You know, he's made himself a big name in that. But that's why would he be trying to have a conversation with you about that when he knows you don't do it or have anything to do with it? And he's probably sick of talking about it because everyone wants to talk about it with him. You're not going away.
Perfect. Let me answer you. Same reason you just did. Because you're being, in a situation where it happens to come up. And people want to share their main love with other people that they're conversing with. So, for example, let's say he was listening right now and he went, oh, he doesn't know anything about it. Oh, I really want to share that with him so he understands the beauty that we have within this sport. Man, I really want to share that. Do you see what I mean? And when he gets to that, and I'm like,
yeah,
shit. So, you see where I'm going?
Right. The onus is on you to keep his interest in your topic, though. And one of the ways you could do that is just say, give me any claimed globe proof, and I'll show you how it needs a flat Earth.
Yeah, I'll do all that. I'm certain of it. But in the same way it was awkward with JLB yesterday when he was like, man, Eddie Bravo. I could tell from how JLB was talking about Eddie Bravo, that is an important figure in his life and has been very influential. And when I got a shout out from him, John LeBon was absolutely aghast. Oh my God, somebody who I know is getting a shout out from Eddie Bravo. This is the most monumental thing ever. I've got to talk about it. I've got to go on Nathan's show and congratulate him. That was his attitude. Yeah. Now, I'm like, oh, Eddie Bravo. Is he the guy who hangs around with Joe Rogan and talks about conspiracies? That's my interactions with Eddie Bravo. So, yeah, I appreciate he's going to be better known than I am. But it doesn't have the same weight that it did for JLB. So, like I say, when he started getting into the fights that he's won to lead a super chatter to say he has beaten the best, he alluded to all that stuff, and I had nothing to come back with. I didn't know how to even nod along. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know the appropriate moments to go, that's interesting, because I don't know what I don't know what any of it means, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you can't be expected to hold a conversation about a topic you don't know. I mean, I did all that for 10 years, and I technically wouldn't get into a conversation with him about that, because it's like, even though I know about it, I haven't had his experience. So you know what I mean? We're wasting my time. It's just, like, there's nothing to really talk. Well, I might talk bits about it, but I'd be only focused on the one thing, which is the topic at hand. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's nothing to be thinking about. You don't have to think about that. You know, it's like when Tommy comes here, Tommy from Birmingham, the boxer. You don't feel the need to talk to Tommy about boxing all the time, because the topic is not boxing. You know what I mean? If you're not getting that.
Yeah, but it does come up with Tommy.
Well, I do and I don't. With Tommy, it's fun because we know it's obviously a physical, it's a fighting sport. Therefore, the jokes about I'd kick your ass or something like that. You know, your bravado where you know it's misplaced, telling a giant monster of a man like Tommy, I could easily have you, mate. Something like that. But from what I see in Eddie Bravo, I don't think the conversation would ever go there. From the limited amount I know about him, I just don't think it would get a rise out of him in a way that I'm suggesting I would do if we got friendly and became, like matey in the chat. I don't think I'd get a rise out of him if I said something like that. Of course, I could kick your ass. Look how much taller I am, or something stupid, right? I wouldn't do that with Eddie Bravo. However, in the same way I did do that with Tommy, I would want to do that if I was in front of Joe Rogan, right? Again, another absolute monster of a man. Because it's so absurd. Do you know what I mean? And I might be able to get a little rise, at least a smile I would hope I'd get out of him if I put it forward with enough gusto to semi-take me seriously. You know, I think that would get a laugh out of Joe Rogan. But not Eddie Bravo. I just think he'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you mucking around with this stupidness? You know what I mean? As opposed to...
You sound nervous.
I am.
You sound like a girl getting ready to go on a date with her, like, crush or something.
Exactly, John, exactly.
I'll get lost. You're
You
all
have
bastards.
to remember, Nathan, before you go into this topic, if you were going into one of Eddie's training halls, and Eddie's there, then he's the man. He knows his stuff. That's what he does. In this arena, you have more information.
You the man. Oh, I love it. I'm getting a pep talk from my panel. This is awesome.
Yeah, you have to be like. If I was talking to Eddie about this topic, I would, like, if I was going to go on the mats with Eddie, then Eddie's the man, right? But in this topic, in this arena, I have more experience, more information, more time put in. So in this topic, I would see myself as being the more senior.
That's what I was
if you understand.
going to say. Look, but put it in fighting analogy. You're in my gaff now. Yeah, you're the subject matter expert. Yeah.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you don't go and see a man who's a subject matter expert in something and talk about yourself.
Exactly.
You're going to that guy for a specific reason, not to remind him that you're a good MMA fighter or whatever. You're going to the subject matter expert. Yeah. You
Maybe
don't go
it's
to a
just that
consultant and talk about your model collection or your stamp book. You know what I mean? You're going to the consultant for a reason.
Yeah, he wants to pick your brain on flat Earth. That's it. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Fair enough.
Feed him, Nathan. Feed him.
Fair enough. I will do just that. And speaking of which, although we did mention it at the beginning of this show, can I read, as you're here now, Adam, my email that I sent to Max Egan?
Oh, yeah, go on.
Dear Mr. Egan, You have recently come to my attention because, to my understanding, you have gained an appreciation of the flat nature of the world we dwell atop. It would be my honour to offer you the very best axioms and arguments there are for this subject, so that you are not drawn into the speculation about ice walls, domes, maps, with sun and moon floating above them, how the globe doesn't work, NASA and other such nonsense, which find prevalence in this subject area. Instead, and if you are willing, I'd like to take you through the proof, measurements of the flat earth that are also used to make claims we stand on a sphere. If you would be willing to allow me and possibly my panel of experts in this subject to give you the very best tools to defend the fact Earth is measured flat, please drop me a reply so we/I can make arrangements to do just that. Yours sincerely, Nathan Oakley.
Very nice and open. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
The only thing I don't like is the defend.
What?
Yeah, I did.
How you
I
said
no,
defend.
good catch. I did almost rephrase that, Neil, because I didn't want to make it sound. I also took out the word arguments when I was drafting it, because there's no argument here. Yeah. Now I think I rephrased it in such a way that made it seem like he's going to be on the back foot at some point with someone telling him it's a globe. So when I left that in, it is contextually correct for where he is at. For us, it isn't. You're right, Neil. Good catch.
Right. Would it be better to say to assert it's flat than defend?
That's what I'm thinking.
I still see somebody who's new to the subject as being almost certainly on the back foot. I mean, unless he's been watching us in 2024, he's going to be on the back foot, is he not? That was my frame of mind. I don't know. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and you're right. Sorry.
I didn't hear it like that. I just said defend the position in terms of not having to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. The way probably to assert it. There's a lot more gusto behind that. Really, if you can defend it, that's all you need to be able to do.
The way I
Well, you could say. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nathan.
I was just going to say the way I write letters is I write out what I am thinking I need to achieve, and it's normally me-centric when I'm writing out a letter. Then I'll go through the entire letter and rephrase everything that is me-centric to you-centric. I make what I'm talking about relevant to the person that it is addressed to. In this case, it's about Max Igan and his understandings and his finding flat Earth and him getting better understandings and him having better defences given to him. Do you see what I mean? So I tend to phrase letters in a way that makes them solely about the person that's being written to and appealed to, in this case, Max. So it's all about Max. What Max could potentially learn from us as opposed to what I can teach Max. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, the way you explained his position right now in flat Earth debate, yeah, it makes sense. But I would say assert that Earth is flat and defend any so-called rebuts.
You were here when I asked if you wanted to change anything in that draft, weren't you, Neil?
No, I wasn't here.
No, it was not.
Oh, was he not?
Me.
Oh, I'll take it back. Fair enough. I fired it off just before the show because I didn't want it to go out after the fact. Like, here's a live show about Max Egan and an email that I'm going to draft live. It's like, now we're live. I've sent an email to Max. That's why it's in the title. Let's discuss it.
We're just being pedantic. It's a very well-written letter.
I love it.
I say send it as is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's already gone, from what I've heard. Has he done a video then recently, or has he Twittering or Xing, whatever it is, about it?
I've no idea. Someone told me yesterday in the Discord server after I was talking to John LeBon. So I went in and someone informed me that in late 23, he had done as he had done 2 years ago and come out as a flat earther, but in a more overt way than the last time he came out and then relinquished it about a week later. Do you remember?
Was it relinquished or weren't asked?
I don't know, one or the other.
Deal with that do you know what I mean?
It could be either. I can't remember the details. It was several years ago. But I remember watching his video in the forest with his contemplations about the nature of Earth. I remember them. Anyway, there we go. I think you'll agree. You obviously saw worth in having him on Iron Realm, right?
Yeah, he's influential in many places, isn't he, in terms of alternative thought?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I saw it so critical immediately. As soon as I heard that, I was like, he's someone who can definitely help us combat Feast of Nonsense because he's influential in the ACT realm, the alternative conspiracy truth realm. Yeah, he's very influential. And therefore, if he now starts a journey down ice walls and azimuthals, then that's a real shame because he could poison quite a few people. So at this stage, you go, I immediately want to pounce on that. Yes, let's have a chat with Max and go, look, right, we've been here 10 years. Hopefully you've heard of us. It doesn't matter if you have or haven't. Here's some flat earth proofs for you. Not vague descriptions that will take an hour for you to go through with a guy in a gunship or something. Really simple. You can summarize them in a sentence.
Well, it's usually pretty easy to spot when they're faking too, because when it gets to level being a flat plane, they start the glober starts pouring out of them. You know,
There'll be some of that no matter what. So any ex-glober, which is everybody, will always have that certain degree of either linguistic or mental remnants of globe, or linguistically it's part and parcel of the way you have to describe something that's common, like atmosphere.
no, I'm not talking about like how we use words. It's how they think of it, right? And when someone's pretending to be a flat earther, when they're met with those contradictions, they can't keep pretending to be a flat earther. It gets to the heart of it quick. You understand what I'm saying? Like if somebody suggested that he was faking being a flat earther, and that it won't take long to find out if he talks to you or us.
Right. But I'm not here necessarily to decipher an alternative agenda or motivation that Max may have. If his declarations are to be taken at face value and they're short-lived, i.e. he has a discussion with us, he has all the wonderful arguments and proofs and axioms that we offer him, and then a week later he turns around and says, no, but level is curved, or something to that effect, it wouldn't matter. Yeah. We still get the opportunity. Go on.
No, I agree. But usually when you're explaining those things to people, from my experience, I ain't saying all people, it's hard for them to nod along if they're just trying to play a game.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
If they believe in their heart of hearts that this is all nonsense and that they've got a little get out of jail for all of the arguments that they're pretending to agree and nod along with, when you come to a principle that's undefeatable from a globe standpoint, they won't nod along anymore because now they're shifting uncomfortably. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons Globers don't come here. It ain't got nothing to do with the mute button being shouted down. None of that. It's because it's really uncomfortable when you get to the meat and potatoes, as some people call it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, it's just too uncomfortable to be here. Yeah, I do. I agree.
Well, you can't even, as Sean was saying, people who are pretending to be flat earthers. The easiest way to and I've done this to more than one time, several times, to find out if someone is or isn't when you suspect they're only lying, is to throw something at them that will trigger them if they are a baller. Certain things will trigger someone if they're a baller. And once you throw it at them and they start defending something, whether it be gravity or something else, you know what you have then. Like, throw something at them, they'll feel the need to defend because you're then intruding upon their belief.
Give me an example, Brian. What would you throw at him? Something that you know would trigger them.
Oh, I go into gas not having weight and how things weigh more at high altitudes and all this, and you know that's going to trigger your average baller because they're going to start trying to force in a force of gravity, and do you know what I mean? Gas goes have weight, and they're going to, that's what's going to immediately they're going to, have a problem with that. That's just an example.
Black Swan. Just say Black Swan and for us, Black Swan doesn't need any further explanation. We've detailed it so many times. And if they continue to nod along, then obviously all is well. But if, as John would put it, they should start to shift uncomfortably or talking about refraction in a very uncomfortable sounding voice, then you know you've got a glober in disguise on your hands, right?
If he says, "What about refraction?" then you know.
That wouldn't be quite enough, because they might be saying, "What about refraction?" That's the point. They destroy their own rhetoric, isn't it? That might be the next sentence off their lips, right? In which case, yeah. Oh, you're in the know.
That's true.
Someone's just had a bid on eBay. Yeah, so that's it. That's Max Egan, and did we discuss Johnny? About to call him Johnny Bravo, Eddie Bravo, enough.
It'd be good when you go on there. It'll definitely help, because he's got a big base underneath him, subscriber base and followers, and there's a lot of people will share it, because there's a lot of people who are into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who are actually an MMA who are flat earthers. It's a big thing.
No, is that true?
Yeah, big thing. Yeah.
How do you know that?
I know, because I used to be involved in it, and I know about the arena there. A lot of people are. Yeah.
Can I say something, Brian?
I'll give you
Eddie.
Oh, 1 second.
Eddie Bravo's student brought Flat Earth to him. That's why he looked into it. So Brian is correct.
But I can give you more than even that. What's the man's name? He's the grandson of Cron Gracie is the man's name. He's one of the Gracie family that was spoken about earlier. He was into MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and getting world championships in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and going into MMA and all this. And he's a Brazilian, and Flat Earth is bigger in Brazil than anywhere else in the world. And he actually gave up competing and all the rest of it. Sure, he still trains and everything, but he gave up all that purely to promote Flat Earth.
Just take Brian with you. If you're nervous, take Brian with you.
Thanks, John.
Well, he won't need me for anything. You know what I mean? But it's massive in that. It's massive in the Flat Earth and MMA arena. It's more and more people are Flat Earthers. Because they deal with, I suppose,
NBA players coming out.
Yeah, there is.
This is what I fear the most. You see, this is it. So I'm on a podcast. Eddie Bravo's just gone, yeah, there's loads of MMA flat earthers. Starts listing them. Then someone else on the panel piques their interest, like Gene's just done. And then Mr. Palmer, and before you know it, I'm excluded from the conversation, just nodding along to how interesting it is. You see what I mean? I can't.
Yeah, but live appearance or a stream? Is this a stream or a live appearance that he wants to do?
He just wants me on his podcast. It'll be absolutely fine, and I'm certain that I can't remember which one on my panel said that you're there as the expert, and he's just going to be asking you questions about your subject matter expertise. In the same way, right? If I think of, I immediately racked my brain once I heard that example. Is like, well, who can I think of that would be like that? And I thought of Jordan Peterson talking to, not Eddie Bravo, talking to Joe Rogan. You think, well, Jordan Peterson's not sat there worried about his lack of knowledge when it comes to fighting when he's talking to Joe Rogan, is he? He's going to talk about sociology or whatever it is he's talking about. What his expert field is. That's what he's there as a guest to talk about. So what am I worrying about? You're right.
Yeah, you're not there to do that. You should only be worried if and if you were turning up to actually learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Eddie Bravo, you'd have not to worry about either, because he wouldn't be trying to kill you. He'd know you're only starting. There's nothing to worry about in the story.
No, I'm soft.
You don't have to know about any of this. You just have to know about what you know about, and that's what you're there for.
Indeed. And if he just so happened to have Jordan Peterson there and sticks us in a ring together for a death match, it would be very entertaining.
Before Adam goes, I have put something into Master B. If you would mind sharing it, and I just want to go through it, but before the live show ends. Sorry, Adam.
Adam, was you going to go? Because I was going to.
Go, Adam, go.
No, I was just saying Bryce Mitchell. I was trying to think of the MMA fighter that was quite famous as a flat earther. He called out Joe Rogan as well.
Are you doing this
didn't he?
deliberately?
Yeah. on purpose.
Bastard.
Didn't
Right.
they?
I'm going to cut you off. Brian, go ahead. It's up on screen.
I was going to do the same
Is
thing.
this an
So
in-person?
Yeah, I know.
or
All of the
stream?
panel now, I'm just going to get this out of the way. They all now want to find a segue that I've disclaimed with a slightly quivery voice that John's immediately picked up on and gone, you're scared, aren't you? Bastards. Now they all want to find a segue I can have to nod along to and go, yes, very interesting. Lots of flat earthers in MMA, you say, nod, nod, nod. Sods all of you.
All you have to do, see, I know what's wrong. You're scared of success. That's what you're scared of.
Oh,
That's your
shut
problem.
up. Who do you
What
think
you
you are?
have to do
Sigmund
is-
Freud.
is when, a lot of people are scared of success. A lot of people want money, but
That's
they're scared
you,
of money.
Brian.
Things like that. I'm not scared of success.
Yes, you are. Because when we
no,
wanted
I'm
to
not.
grow this, you wanted to just sit back and stay here. But that's another
No,
story.
I don't. No, I don't. Right?
High five,
Now-
Neil. High five.
Yeah. The thing about it is what's important. This is my advice for you. When you go on there, don't go from thing to thing to thing to thing. Don't just say stuff and move on. Go through the details. Lay out why something is what it is. And even if you only get through 3 topics or 2 topics, that's all that matters. All that matters is that his audience gets to hear invaluable information. That's all that matters. That's all you have to do. And you can do that. You do this every day. You can do it any day. You do it every day. Whatever it is, whether it be gravity, anything else, just go through it. And whatever he asks you to go through, to talk about, just start at that and go through and say, if he tries to move on, just say, no, sorry, tell him you'd rather get through the details and to the bottom of it so his audience gets the full of the information. He'll go, okay, he's a very amicable person. He's totally calm.
Now, I think the best thing we can possibly do is I'll pop over to you and you can put me through a rigorous training regime for the next 10 days. We'll get footage and edit it down to about 30 seconds with montage music behind it.
And montage of you just turning from day 1 to day 30 absolute animal.
Yeah, you behind me running up a hill covered in snow going, you can do it, just push that limit.
Nah, you missed it. What Brian just said was, Nathan, do what I do, don't do what you do.
I heard that too. Just be focusing on don't be your normal vague wishy-washy self where you've gleaned the information from all of us who do all the primary source research. Don't do that. Do what we do. Do that disciplined research that I know damn well you don't do. That's what Brian's saying, isn't he, Neil? I know it and you know it.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying add enough detail so the audience get something. Because otherwise the audience will go, wow, Nate really knows what he's talking about, but I haven't got a clue about what he meant. You don't want that. You want the audience to at least be able to go, hang on, let me just Google this thing. Or he said this. I think I know what he means. Does he mean this? Do you know what I mean? Little things like that. It's like, but whether the audience going, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Yet I have no idea what he said. You know what I mean? There's too many times that kind of stuff happens. And you're too good at that. Because you can sit here for 2 hours and, like straight out, this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing. But if someone doesn't know what you're talking about, they'll just know that you know what you're talking about, but they won't know what it is that you're talking about. That's no good to the audience. No good to Eddie Bravo. No good to you in the long run. That's just my advice. You do it your way, but that'd be my advice.
That was a very long-winded way of saying make sure you give details, but thank you. Okay, right, I'm going to read out Godzilla's super chat. 1 second, super chat, super fluid. Wait 1 second. I don't know how to explain, quote, Earth is measured flat, end quote. A sextant doesn't measure Earth. Yeah, it does. So when asked, quote, by whom and how, end quote, I'll have nothing, full stop. How do you measure something, quote, flat, end quote, who begin with, question mark, says Godzilla 37. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Who wants to field that? I did in the middle of his super chat, surreptitiously.
I missed some of it. What was the main question there?
Says, I don't know how to explain Earth is measured flat as a statement because the sextant doesn't measure Earth. That's his main point that's wrong. Godzilla.
The sextant does measure Earth. That's the whole point of it.
It does indeed.
Yeah, you reference Earth twice for every measurement. The first measurement you make a port, that's a height of wire measurement. The second measurement you make out to sea. and you correct your second measurement with your first measurement, and both measurements are referencing the surface of Earth. Like you're measuring Earth when you're using the sextant. The proof of that is elevation angles to Polaris, because every latitude is a circle of equal altitude, and the distance between that circle and the GP of Polaris is the horizontal distance that you've measured. That's on the surface of Earth. That's what that grid is. Obviously, it's not painted on, but the grid is based on the surface of Earth and your measurements.
Oh, I get to interrupt you
between
with the
the
point you
horizon
made.
and Polaris.
Absolutely spot on. When it comes to someone like Gord asking that question, when we discussed this in one of the it might have been after the fact. We might not have got this on a recording. You and I specifically were discussing this, and what you advised was when it comes to someone suggesting this, you would take them just to Polaris. Not the whole grid, but just to the Polaris measurement with a simplistic explanation of the area of equal elevation that you get. Now I'm overcomplicating it when I describe how they derive the inferred minimum to get the R value, but that isn't necessary when someone like Gord says, "Well, how do you mean measured flat?" Well, if you, Brian, if you would be so kind as to explain how it's relevant to focus very specifically on Polaris and its measurement to illustrate this point to Gord. Can you do that for me now?
As in to illustrate why that measurement kills the globe and proves it's flat.
Yes, because in so doing, it's very clear that it's a measurement, but in the process of doing so, that becomes elucidated to Gord to address his question, even though it's not directly addressing it, it's talking about measurements of Polaris, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, okay. So once you take a height of eye at port, that correction will be whatever it is, let's say it's 40 feet, right, at port. Then you have a correction in the almanac for that. And that correction you will make to every measurement you take. So when you're north of the equator with a marine sextant on a boat in the night time, and you're taking an angle between the visible sea horizon and Polaris, once you take that measurement, you will then subtract from that measurement your height of eye correction, right? That will then give you your latitude. So let's just say you got 42 degrees exactly, right? And that after you've done your correction, and this is after you've done any celestial refraction for Polaris, the way celestial body can appear higher in the sky than it actually is, this kind of thing. I won't go into all that now, but that's just that little bit of refraction. So you took your angle between the visible sea horizon and Polaris, and you subtracted your height of eye from that, and you subtracted, you added the correction for the little bit of celestial refraction, and you have 42 degrees. What that says is that you have just measured a straight line between the GP point of Polaris, right, and your where you are, and it is 42 degrees, which means that you're at 42 degrees north latitude. Now, you can do that every night that you can do every night that you're at sea.
Stop.
And you're north of the equator. Hang on.
Just before you do,
no,
go over it again.
Finished.
But where you say say measure, just to go through the same exact thing one more time. Just
I know
yourself.
that. Yeah. You have just measured your latitude, right? So if you've just, after you've taken your angle between the visible, this is the point I'm trying to focus on, visible sea horizon and Polaris, and you've corrected for your height of eye, and you corrected for celestial refraction, not 7/6 or any of that, celestial refraction. You've then measured a horizontal distance between your position and the GP point of Polaris, and that is 40. You've just measured your latitude, which is 42 degrees north. Now, to do that, you must reference the surface of Earth, because latitude and longitude are based off of using the celestials to place a grid on the surface of Earth. Now, according to our opposition, right, the horizon you're looking at is
I don't want to get into this.
Hang on.
I just want you to. He's just sent another super chat. So, a sextant measures angles, not Earth, says Gortilla. Maybe the words need further defined. Measured specifically and Earth specifically. So I just wanted to drop that in at that point so you can go, oh, well, no, I need to go over it yet again, which clearly you do.
Yeah, you're literally measuring the Earth to get your latitude. As in the horizon you're looking at, that you're using, there has to be the water. There's water at that horizon. That is the Earth. There's water underneath your boat that you measure your height of fly off. That is the Earth. So you're referencing your twice for every measurement. So when you measure to Polaris and you end up at 42 degrees, that means you've just measured 42. Your latitude has been 42 degrees. The only way north. The only way you can do that is if you're referencing the surface of Earth. That's the only way. Now, what people don't understand, because this is, if you leave me go off now, Nathan, the ballers constantly talk about how the line from the eye that goes at a dip to the horizon, that they talk about when you do the height of flight correction, that line goes up to the eye line, right? Now, you can describe it that way, and it can be described that way. But in the almanac, for the site reduction tables, what site reduction is it corrects, right? It corrects your elevation angles. So you think you have your three angles at pretty good. What this does is it gives you a correction for each one. For if you're here at this time and that's your angle, your actual angle is this bit. This is actually this, which is slightly more slightly more precise. And in the almanac, the site reduction tables place the adjacent of the right angle triangle at sea level. So the nautical almanac is placing the adjacent of the right angle triangle that you will be using. That's your elevation angle, right? It's placing that base of that on sea level. That means sea level is pre-assumed by the nautical almanac as being a horizontal.
So the angle is a measurement, and that measurement is of the Earth flat. It is quite literally a flat Earth measurement. You can say, the measurement, hold on. You can say the measurements of an angle. What? So what? You object on the basis that it's not a tape measure and that you'd have to derive your distance to Polaris if you wanted to use the angle for that. Yeah, that's correct. But to acquire it for that process, you have measured Earth flat. That's what the angle measurement that is utilizing Earth flat is. A measurement of Earth flat. There's no other way to describe it.
But what you've done is you've measured horizontal straight line distance, and that then can be described as flat. So technically, when it comes to celestial navigation, and the same with aerospace, you can technically say that you've measured the Earth flat.
That's how NASA describe it. That's how NASA describe it. Flat, non-rotating Earth. They use flat very specifically.
Yes, because they're referencing a horizontal. They're referencing the two-dimensional mean sea level plane. That's what they're horizontal plane. That's what they're referencing.
Yeah,
when they say flat.
The same plane that your surveyor would give you deviations with respect to, the flat Earth that's being measured.
Yeah, you see, you're not. When it comes to celestial navigation and aerospace, there's no elevations involved. Aerospace is only altitudes, but there's no elevations. They're not dealing with topography. Even if they're flying, even airplanes that fly not at very high, let's say it's airplanes that are flying from city to city, they're not flying very high. They avoid anywhere where there's mountains or anything topography where they'd have to deal with it. So they take routes that means that they only deal with two dimensions. And the bigger aircraft, they fly at altitudes above everything.
Trying to read out Paula's comment from the chat. Bible U says, measuring angles is only useful if the surface being navigated is flat, since angles need straight lines. That's what you're establishing with these angles. That's what you'll be doing with the straight line that's using the ground flat when you measure.
Exactly, Paula.
I hope that answers your question, Gord. Good value out your super
chats, I don't know what's so
hope.
hard about this. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't know what's so hard about this.
I'm just thanking Gord keeping the lights on. In many ways, the most important thing that's happened is that he's given me money. As much as I hate to take off the Flat Earth hat and put on the YouTube hat, he needs thanking and he's getting it. Thank you for the super chats, Godzilla. Sorry the interruptions came from Neil, but you did get 2 thanks for it, so double value.
No, I'm not talking about God specifically. but there's other people that are saying the same thing. You know what I'm talking about. This ain't difficult. Paula just explained it very easily.
There's a.
Are we
there's
still
a
arguing about the semantic range of flat?
yeah, there's an argument that because you're not taking a tape measure to it, it's not measuring flat. And you're like, no, the angle is a measurement. And a prerequisite is that the ground is flat. That's what you'll be navigating. And the principle of the acquisition of the line itself uses the ground. You're pointing it at the horizon. That's utilizing
Right.
the ground in your measurement. It's a flat earth measurement. Well, I don't know how else to say these. I can rephrase it in as many different ways as you like.
So wait a second. When we have places that are way too big to be dropping tape measures, and I shoot a laser to measure it, I'm not measuring the area because I didn't drop a freaking tape measure.
It depends, because your laser example may not have any practical application. My measurement of an earth that's flat with an angle that runs along a baseline of a ground that's flat, the thing I'm navigating, it's not the ground, as our opponents seem to want to tell us. It's very much the ground that we are measuring. People don't want to like it. They want to brace against it. It seems too simple. Surely when we measure the ground flat, it's not measuring flat earth. You're like, what? What do you mean? Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. But people want to brace against it for some reason. Don't get me wrong. We got Bev in the chat poisoning the live stream chat. But
Correct. When I shoot the laser, it's in the air. It's not on the ground. That's why I'm comparing it to.
But we always have people bracing against it. Initially, it was Bev bracing against the fact that you're acquiring angles off a flat baseline by saying you can do nothing with angles. That worked out badly for him. His little sound bite of you can do F all with an angle has now been nicely edited up by me, with him summarising it at the end of yesterday's live show by going, oh, there's quite a lot you can do with these angles, isn't there? People want to brace against it. There'll always be detractors, and those who hear the detractions, good or bad, you second guess yourself if you don't fully understand something. That's where we're at. People don't fully understand this position. It's almost too simple. Any other comments? With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!